Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. It is summer. I do not like summer. It is hot and gross, and I hate it. I was not looking forward to this week's episode, primarily because I knew it was going to have a few more references to Zeta Gundam, and frankly, I just have no faith that they'll be able to do a decent Zeta Gundam-oriented story. Also, I've been playing G-Generation's Eternal, and I will say this. Every week now, for the last few weeks, they've been giving out a free character associated with G-Quuuuuuux. And every week, my brother and I roll our eyes and go, ugh, when am I ever going to use this character? My brother wants them to hand out free mobile suits. I just want characters from a series I actually like. Prologue banter out of the way. Let's break down episode 7 of G-Quuuuuuux. So this time around, stuff actually happens, which is already a step above the previous couple episodes. We begin our episode with the fight about to start. It is set up inside the colony, which everyone believes is weird because it's going to be incredibly dangerous to fight inside a colony. We then get a nice little flashback to Machu trying to convince Nyan to help her liberate Shuji and the Red Gundam because they're going to be turned over to the police. And Nyan, out of nowhere, asks if Machu is in love with Shuji. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. There's an extension in this flashback later. We'll get into it. Then we cut back to current stuff, and we see Machu's mom being told what clan battle is and being very worried about the sheer amount of MPs that are roaming around. There's actually a payoff to this. I know, right? We then get to see the meeting between Cecilia Zabi and the president of the colony, and essentially they're looking for money for an Earth restoration program. They also reference the solar array, which is interesting. When Cecilia is done making the deal, the president gloats for a bit, and then is also told, hey, there's some clan battle stuff going down. And he's like, that stuff makes tons of money. No reason to shut it down. MPs don't know what they're doing. And then we cut to Cecilia, who looks very frustrated with the disorganization of the MPs, and curious about what's going on. Finally, we cut to the Zeon crew on the ship, and they make a comment about how Chalia Bull is missing, and how all this military buildup is putting them on edge as well. We then find out that Nyan is in the G-Quuuuuuux, and that the 12 Olympians, the not Titans, are a little bit on edge. We then cut to the Pomeranians, where they're freaking out about having to deal with a mobile armor, a transformable mobile armor, no less. And the guy from the previous episode basically tells the team, pack your bags, we're gonna get out of here. Because obviously he knows what's about to happen and wants to keep the team safe. Nice little moment, and a callback to that guy trying to help out the team as best he can, knowing what is on the horizon. We then find out that Machu is in the main office and stealing money from the safe. How nobody noticed her? Who knows? The show runs on stupidity. The boss lady shows up and is like, what do you think you're doing? You think you're just going to be able to just swipe this and go? Because that's not how this works. And Machu pulls a gun on her, and then we cut away back to the Titans team. The mobile armor transforms into the Psycho Gundam, and fight begins. There is no tactics in her strategy, it's just which just causes a whole load of collateral damage because the 12 Olympians do not care about that. They have a bigger mission. Meanwhile, we cut back to Machu. She has this brief little moment with the boss, talking about how she needs to escape. The boss is like, you're not going to shoot me. You don't got the guts for it. Machu does shoot the gun, but it either didn't hit the boss or it grazed her. Either way, the boss kind of stumbles, falls down, Machu takes the money and runs. The MPs show up, start firing on stuff. The G-Quuuuuuux is taken down almost immediately, and we get another flashback to the little argument of do you love him sequence. This really annoys me. In many Gundam series, I can fully understand the attraction of the couple. Whether there's something physical about it, whether it's the guy's super awesome pilot man, or there's an emotional connection. And with Shuji, I don't see it at all. He isn't good looking enough to be like super attractive guy. He isn't like buff or something, like some of the other heroes that have had girls chasing them. He's a good mobile suit pilot, but not like enough to warrant that whole you're a hero and I want to get with a hero thing. He mostly lays around, talks in half sentences, and for some reason these girls like him. And what it reminds me of is in your typical isekai or harem anime, where male protag man is like, I am generic guy person. I have no personality. Sometimes I'm super skilled, sometimes I'm just a doofus. Either way, chicks can't get enough of me. And while that's fun and power fantasy and whatever for people who are into that level of pathetic power fantasy, at least it's the genre, and I can somewhat accept it as part of the genre, even if I do not like the genre. It's just there to force a love triangle. It is super contrived and really stupid, and I absolutely hate it. It literally causes problems for the show because we never spent enough time to get to know our characters where we could understand why they would want to have a relationship with each other, other than, I don't know, we're all new types, so let's bang. Anyhow, we cut back to the present, and Jan begs Shuji to run away with her, and he's like, vague lines about vagueness, man, I don't know. The sun and the stars, the rose is blooming. And then a Zectanova event starts to power up. Everyone freaks out. We even get a nice little thing from Cecilia Zabi, who is both angry, afraid, and confused as to how all this is going on. And I actually do like that. It gave Cecilia a little more characterization, which I do appreciate. In addition to that, we see just things being destroyed all around them. We see Dieu freaking the heck out. And then Shuji is like, oh, the connection, I can feel it, man. And then flash a light, and then the Gundam's gone, because teleportation is one of the powers of the Red Gundam. Deal with it. We then cut to Machu, who apparently wasn't close enough to see that, but close enough to reach the G-Quuuuuuux. The cops find her and immediately try to arrest her, because she is kind of a known criminal at this point. Which is interesting, because when they first cornered her, I thought they were going to say, hey kid, get out of here. This is a super dangerous place. Instead, they're like, we know who you are. Hold it right there. Okay, I'm fine with that. They even scan her face, which makes the episode where they caught her and Jan in the subway worse, primarily because they didn't scan them. They just started harassing the girls for no reason. When, again, like I said in that review, if you had a little scanner device and just, boop, wait a second, this says she's wanted. There, done. Instead, they do it here, which means they had the technology, which means you could have put in that 5 seconds of them being scanned and someone's going, wait a second. And that would have just added that little bit of world building and explain how the cops know who they are. The G-Quuuuuuux starts to activate. They start shooting at Machu. She escapes with the G-Quuuuuuux. It's kind of a wasted opportunity. There's a lot of interesting directions you could have gone with this. You could have had her being arrested and the consequences of that. You could have had her getting attacked or approached by them. Maybe they have their beat sticks or something. And then the G-Quuuuuuux comes to life and saves her. There's things you could have done that would have been really interesting. And of course, as is par for the show, they do none of it. We then find out the true mission for the 12 Olympians, the assassination of Cecilia Zabi. Hey, that thing that was a title a little while ago? Yeah, we're finally doing that, even though that episode had almost nothing to do with it, because why should titles ever mean anything? Xavier shows up, and again! And he immediately is useless because Charlie Bull shows up in a mobile armor, and you get a big mobile armor battle of just laser parade. It's everywhere. It's choo-choo-choo-choo-choo-choo. Complete mess on the screen. Xavier is told, protect Cecilia Zabi. He goes and does so. So he does have a use in this scene, but when I thought we were going to get an interesting fight here, we did not. And he doesn't even get to fight Due's partner, Gate, which would have been an interesting fight. Gate just gets kind of insta-killed. And as for Dia, we see the Psycho Gundam taking a lot of damage, but we don't actually see her death, which makes me wonder if she's still alive or what we're going to do with that. Anyhow, once the dust settles, you see the G-Quuuuuuux trying to escape and Machu losing her mind, and Chalia Bull basically chases her down, and we see the G-Quuuuuuux go down, and we hear Chalia Bull say something like, you need to learn to harness that anger properly. We then get a little bit of a montage. In the process, we see that Machu's friends recognize her on the news, her mother recognizes her on the news, which also they say that her father is some sort of diplomat, which at least means it isn't the courier guy, which is nice. Which also means that courier guy scene is still completely pointless because it has no payoff, which is one of the things we predicted, and yes, it's true, why have payoffs when you cannot? At least cutting back to Machu's mother and having her learn what's going on with her daughter was something of a payoff, so I do appreciate that. We get a little bit of setup and payoff in the episode, which is nice, but it would be nice to have that for, the series. During this time, we also see the MPs raid the Pomeranian base. There's still some money in the safe, but everyone else is gone. Why they didn't take the money? I don't know. We then catch up with Xavier, who finds Neon and basically offers her a position in Zeon. And Neon, who has the little robot thingy called Conch, man, I learned that today, basically just accepts this invite into Zeon, which at least means her character's doing something. We then cut to Lady Cecilia. She thanks the Zeon team for helping her out, and then she turns to Xavier and Neon and is like, all right, we got important things to do. Also, you, girl, is there anyone in your family you want us to pick up so that they'll be safe? And she says, I have no family. Which we kind of already knew that. Thank goodness there's a huge amount of elaboration to expand her character. Anyhow, we truly close out our episode with Chalia Bull making some commentary about how the only way to truly save Zeon is to wipe out the zombies, which I'm sure is a little bit of influence from Char. And we see that Neon is in jail, probably the brig of the Not White base. While I do appreciate the fact that this episode did have a few internal payoffs and actually had stuff happen, it's still doing a lot of setup work. And I want to remind you, this is a 12-episode series. We have 5 episodes left. And according to the next episode's a flashback. So we got 4 episodes left to conclude our story. Not an impossible task, but with the way the writing is handled in this show, it's going to come off shallow and empty. And even if it leads up to a duel between Neon and Machu, I want to point out they are fighting over a guy. But let's yell about it when we actually get a payoff for it. No reason to get angry about stuff that hasn't happened yet. Let's go to something that usually puts me in a better mood. Just kidding, we're going to the characters. Obviously, the characters are shallow and terrible as usual. Our main trio, yeah, they don't even deserve individual cards this time. Basically, nothing. Why have growth? It's pointless. Just because the characters got moved to a new location and the status quo has been shaken up a little bit, does not count as character growth. In fact, we got no character growth. We just got them in new places that could potentially have consequences, maybe. Who knows? With the way this is written, I'm sure most things will be resolved with a hug. Even in an episode where stuff happens, our characters still remain static and empty. When it comes to our minor characters, I guess it's better. Well, I mean, not Gate. Gate is useless. He's just kind of there. He's bad at handling his Cyber-Newtype, and then he dies. Then we have Du. She has Cyber-Newtype-y stuff happen. She has a bit of a freak out. She gets defeated. She might be dead, though I think they're going to keep her alive to be a final boss or something like that by the end of the show. But we'll see what happens. Then we have Xavier. He's still useless. We got Chili Bowl, and he does do things in this episode. I liked him actually getting into the fight finally, as well as the fact that he does drop a few little lines here that go and say where his true loyalties lie, and trying to bring Machu under his wing to potentially be his Mav for future battles. Then we have Cecilia Zabi. I do like the fact that characterization was added with her reactions to things that are going on in the colony, and her trying to kind of gauge where the loyalties lie for Chalia Bull, Xavier, etc. I'm under the assumption we're going to get more Cecilia Zabi because of things that were said in this episode. That's potentially a good thing because she was one of the characters who came off the best in this episode. That's it. There's not much characterization. I would say 2/3 of this episode is made up of fighting or reactions to fighting. So it's not a very character-heavy episode. It is an action-heavy episode. So let's see how well that action pays off in the aesthetics. Our aesthetics are still above average, but there were some choices made this time around that I don't particularly like. When it comes to our audio, when Gate and Du show up, and when the Psycho Gundam starts to activate, we do get some Zeta Gundam battle music, similar to how they did the classic Mobile Suit Gundam music in that flashback episode. And I do appreciate that. I like the cue saying, hey, remember better times. And I go, I do. I very much do. I could get my Zeta Gundam DVDs out right now and actually watch through it, and I'd probably enjoy myself a lot more. Snark aside, I do really like when they do that. I love them bringing back the classic musical cues, especially with some of the visuals we'll get to in a little bit. However, they also did a cardinal sin of filmmaking when you play an upbeat pop song while bad things are happening. And they do it twice. Twice! Doing it once is bad. Doing it twice, that's a personal choice. Why would you put the upbeat J-pop music when bad things are happening? Give me sad music. Give me music that makes me feel a real emotion and doesn't make me go, wow, this doesn't fit the scene at all. Stop it. For the sake of art, you can't do that unless it serves a greater purpose. The Calm Susur Todd segment of End of Evangelion makes sense. It is taking a very depressing song that is sung in an upbeat way while horrible things are happening on screen. It is done to evoke a very specific emotional response from the viewer, but we're not getting that with this. Now, for all I know, maybe the J-pop lyrics are super depressing, but it doesn't work because it doesn't have the build-up like it had in End of Evangelion or other projects that have used a similar type of motif in order to evoke proper emotions. When it comes to our visuals, we got a couple new mech designs here. I love the way they did the Psycho Gundam. I like how its mobile armor looked. I like how it just comes out to become this big, imposing monster. I liked a variation on the Gaian that we saw in this episode. That's pretty cool. And I hope we see it a bit more as the series progresses. And I wish it got to be actually utilized in battle properly instead of kind of charging into fight and make, oh, no, step aside, son. Old man's gonna do his job. That being said, I did appreciate the mech designs in this. I generally have. Now that I've gotten used to what they look like, I'm quite enjoying the aesthetic of it. The one thing I did not like is Cecilia Zabi's civilian look. The hair pulled back into like the business bun and the suit. It just, it doesn't look right. I'm not gonna minus points for that. I'm just pointing out that I think it was a bad choice. But she does put on her modified Cobra Commander cosplay at the end of the episode, which I do appreciate. I love the old-timey war helmet and the face mask thing. It's just great. And so it's nice seeing her in her proper outfit. When it comes to the other visual aspects of the show, I really like how the lighting was used to emphasize the Psycho Gundam, and especially the sequence where it's silhouetted, and then the usage of how the flames and destruction of the city reflect off of it. Very well done. Unfortunately, I hate laser disco. In any type of anime, when they just have the laser disco and it's just the beams flying everywhere and you have no idea what's going on, I hate that. That being said, I could still follow the fights because they're well choreographed. So they do have some aspects that annoy me, but I understood what was going on. And seeing the MPs just get gunned down like they're a joke, the massive amounts of collateral damage, and even the little moment for the news being like, everything's okay, the police have it under control, and the city's just wrapped in flames, and you're just like, I love the propaganda of that. That's actually a nice touch to the show. That's technically an audio thing, but whatever. The aesthetics are pretty strong once again, but the tricks they're employing are stuff that I've seen before. So even though it does make me go, ooh, that's really cool, those really cool moments do not happen often enough. And the sins against audio and the laser disco really do kind of bring this down comparatively to previous episodes. All right, now that we've talked about everything, let's go to our final verdict. One of the biggest problems with this episode is the fact that we had to run in place for so long just to get here. I know that I would have liked this episode a bit more if this was episode 4, maybe episode 5. But episode 7 is a bad place to kind of start moving towards a plot. Which, again, the writing is the biggest problem with this show. While there is some cool fights, and the music's pretty good, we're still stuck with bland characters and no real plot. A couple minor character goals, but not really a plot. And now it feels like we're kind of moving that direction, which, while nice, still... should have gotten started on this way sooner if this is only going to be a 12-episode series. Heck, if this was a 26-episode series, I'd still be a bit upset about how long it's taking to get started. And as you can tell, my patience with this show is starting to wane. But I understand good when I see it, and there was some good in this episode. That's why my final verdict for episode 7 is 2.5 out of 5. While this plot is not moving forward, events did occur in this episode, and those were generally pretty cool little events. The characters are still completely empty and useless. The audio annoyed me with making a major audio faux pas. Visuals were mostly fine, but nothing you could go and celebrate. And overall, my enjoyment for this show continues to diminish because of the flaws in the show. But it all adds up to being kind of average, middle of the road. better than the last couple episodes, so you know, that's nice. Next time we get a flashback episode, which will probably be enjoyable because it'll focus on Char, and probably help explain what a Zeknova is and how it works, and give us the last bit of information we need before we get into our final arc. However, we are getting started on this way too late, and having 2 of our 12 episodes be flashbacks is kind of a problem. There just isn't enough story here, and giving us these little snippets while we spent a huge chunk of time running in place is not giving me hope for the final 4 episodes. So yeah, I don't have a lot of hope for this series, but it could turn it around. Episodes like this make me not hate the show, which is nice. I just wish there were more episodes in the good quality or even mid quality than there are. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, share the video if you're Gundam friends, and of course, let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode, and let me know what your favorite mech design is of this show. I'm curious to see what other people think about the designs of the robots. And I'll be back next week with my episode 8 review. And until then, I'll see you at the tavern.